Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on our channel News Today. We'll be presenting a list of famous celebrities who have passed away with announcements of their passing made in the last 24 hours. As always, we have special tributes in today's top headline section. Before we proceeded, we kindly ask for your support by giving this video a thumbs up. Let's begin. Thank you. First, news. Bram Inscore, the songwriter and music producer known for his work with Troye Sivan, BTS, and Beck, has died at the age of 41. The instrumentalist died by suicide following a struggle with depression. The rap has confirmed it is with a heavy heart that we announce the passing of our beloved Bram Inscore, who ended his life after a hard-fought battle with depression. Bram was a musician, a producer, composer, and multi-instrumentalist who lent his talents to artists such as Beck, Troye Sivan, and BTS. Insure family, wife, and friends wrote in the statement, selfless as a human and generous as a collaborator, he ingeniously served the music but never his own ego. Deep compassion and dry wit were embedded into everything he did. Though he never sought praise or approval, he was truly a unique spirit, and though his soul has left his body, it will live forever in his music. Goodbye. Rip. Next news. Joan Woodbury, the dancer and choreographer who helped bring modern dance to Utah audiences, as co-founder of the RIR Woodbury Dance Company, has died. Woodbury died Wednesday at Salt Lake City's LDS Hospital, according to her daughter Jenna Woodbury, who served as executive director of the dance company until last year. Joan Woodbury was 96. Woodbury and her artistic partner Shirley Reary formed RIR Woodbury Dance Company in 1964 when the pair both taught dance at the University of Utah. The professional partnership continued to Woodbury's retirement from the company in 2011. We've known each other and worked together longer than most marriages. Last Woodbury told the Salt Lake Tribune in 2009, we both believe the same things about dance. That's what's made it work. Woodbury and Ryrie also were one of the earliest cases of job sharing on the University of Utah campus. They both worked as dance instructors at the 1950s and 60s, back when dance was part of the physical education department, so they also had to teach swimming. The arrangement allowed the two women to teach and create dance pieces while also raising their families. It gave us double the energy in that job, Reary told the Tribune in 2009. We were both giving full time, but we were paid for half. We didn't care about the pay, just what we could do, and it became very fruitful. Goodbye. Next news. David Leland, the director behind popular 1980s hit Wish You Were Here and writer on a string of acclaimed British films including Made in Britain, Mona Lisa, and Personal Services, has died aged 82. His agency, Serrato Ramsey and Associates, said in a statement that Leland died on Sunday. Surrounded by his family, they added, he is survived by his wife Sabrina, his 4 daughters, his son, and his 6 grandchildren, all of whom he loved almost as much as Arsenal Football Club. Born in 1941, Leland initially trained as an actor at the Central School of Speech of Drama before becoming part of the breakaway that led to the creation of the Drama Center in 1963. He secured small roles in 1970s films such as John Mackenzie's directorial debut One Brief Summer, GNE, and The Green Knight starring Murray Head and Jack Adimi the Pied Piper. However, he found writing and directing more to his taste, directing the world premiere of Michael Palin and Terry Jones's pair of short plays Their Finest Hours at the Crucible Theatre, Sheffield in 1976, and commissioning Victoria Wood to write her 1978 play Talent for the same venue in 1977. Leland cast Pierce Brosnan, who had also studied at the Drama Centre, in the UK premiere of Tennessee Williams' play The Red Devil Battery Sign at the Roundhouse in London, having worked on the scripts of 2 BBC play For Today, Beloved Enemy, and As Warriors for director Alan Clark that were broadcast. In 1981, Leland then made his name as a writer with Made in Britain, a standalone drama starring Tim Roth as a skinhead. It was a controversial but successful production for ITV. In 1982, Leland would go on to produce a number of scripts for key films in Britain's 1980s film industry revival. He was co-credited on the Neil Jordan-directed Mona Lisa, which featured Bob Hoskins as a bodyguard and Kath Tyson as the sex worker he is protecting, and Personal Services, directed by Jones, about real-life brothel keeper Cynthia Payne, played by Julie Walters. Leland then made his own move into directing film with the 1987 wartime comedy drama Wish You Were Here starring Emily Lloyd. It was again inspired by Payne's experiences and proved a popular hit. He quickly moved onto the US set comedy Checking Out starring Jeff Daniels and produced by George Harrison's handmade films. It was a financial failure. However, Leland returned to the UK and had success with The Big Man, starring Liam Neeson as a bar knuckle fighter in Glasgow, and The Land Girls, another wartime drama featuring Catherine McCormack, Rachel Weisz, and Anil as women assigned farm work. He did not give up acting completely. However, memorable screen appearances included the Golden Gordon episode of Palin and Jones's Ripping Yarns as the desperate, angry manager philosophers, Union Rep Magicus in the TV series adaptation of the Hitch ERSG to the Galaxy, and The Puppeteer in Terry Gilliam's epic fantasy Time Bandits. Leland then directed an episode of the Band of Brothers TV miniseries in 2001, jointly winning an Emmy for Outstanding Directing, and in 2011 collaborated with Jordan on the historical TV series The Boar, starring Jeremy Irons. He wrote and directed a number of episodes in show's second series, having joined as co-showrunner and producer. Branching out into the music industry, Leland made a number of videos for Harrison's Traveling Wilbury Band. He was asked to direct the monumental concert for George documentary, the 2003 film of the Harrison tribute concert that had taken place after the musician's death. In 2001, Olivia Harrison, George Harrison's wife, said David Leland was a family friend and George Harrison's trusted choice to direct 3 music videos in the late 1980s for the Traveling Wilburys, trust being the key word, in the company of George, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and Bob Dylan. Aside from one instruction from George to just be cool, David chose locations that captured and resonated the simplicity, complexity, respect, and friendship that brought those iconic musicians together. Over 20 years later, I asked him to create a movie of the concert for George that we filmed at the Royal Albert Hall in celebration of George's life. David and I spent many hours in the cutting room, all the while trying to fathom the passing of George, as we will all have to come to terms with the loss of David. Leland then directed an episode of the Band of Brothers TV miniseries in 2001, jointly winning an Emmy for Outstanding Directing, and in 2011 collaborated with Jordan on the historical TV series The Boar, starring Jeremy Irons. He wrote and directed a number of episodes in show's second series, having joined as co-showrunner and producer. Branching out into the music industry, Leland made a number of videos for Harrison's Traveling Wilbury Band. He was asked to direct the monumental concert for George documentary, the 2003 film of the Harrison tribute concert that had taken place after the musician's death. In 2001, Olivia Harrison, George Harrison's wife, said David Leland was a family friend and George Harrison's trusted choice to direct 3 music videos in the late 1980s for the Traveling Wilburys, trust being the key word, in the company of George, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and Bob Dylan. Aside from one instruction from George to just be cool, David chose locations that captured and resonated the simplicity, complexity, respect, and friendship that brought those iconic musicians together. Over 20 years later, I asked him to create a movie of the concert for George that we filmed at the Royal Albert Hall in celebration of George's life. David and I spent many hours in the cutting room, all the while trying to fathom the passing of George, as we will all have to come to terms with the loss of David. In a statement, Berzin said, David Leland holds a mighty place in my heart. It was the thrill of my young lifetime to be cast as McCabe, working with David and Tennessee. David will forever be an essential part of my story and of all who knew and loved him. Roth added, David was there at the very beginning of this crazy adventure. He changed my life and I love him for it. I'll keep him with me always. In the same statement, Nis said, David was a dream to work with. He was a real collaborator. He genuinely loved and admired actors. We formed a close bond. One loved his mischievous sense of humor. You are always in my heart, old friend. See you down the road. Guile added, the loss of David is very sad. As a friend and as a writer-director, he was always solidly grounded, invariably sensitive, and ruthlessly honest. His 1987 film Wish You Were Here is still one of my all-time favorite British films. Palin said, David has been a great and steadfast friend for most of my life. In the 1970s, he encouraged Terry Jones and myself to write 2 plays for the Crucible Theatre in Sheffield. They were experimental, and David admired us for pushing the boundaries. He remained a loyal